Port Gamble is an entire town. It's a historic town that is basically preserved from the middle of the 1800s up until the time that it was, the mill town itself was functioning until 1995. I think that's what makes it a more interesting location and a more likely location for paranormal phenomena.
Port Gamble was a company town. At the time the mill operated, you had to work for the mill to live in town. And so they did basically a cradle to grave. So we have a morgue that's no longer active, a hospital, and the schoolhouse, which is no longer here, and then the cemetery. Thinking about it in the cycle of a spirit, they really would never have to leave. If they were born here, lived here, worked here, died here, buried here, they've kind of come full circle.
It's a beautiful, quaint town, sits right on the water of the Puget Sound. It's lovely.
There's something mystical and very storybook-esque about the city and the town. It's surreal.
Port Gamble is unique in such that there is reported activity in almost every building.
Most of the town has paranormal activity associated with it, and the town has really embraced that.
It started out probably 10 years ago. We contacted a paranormal group. Neil McNeil happened to be part of it at the time, and they came out, did some investigations, and they found some things. They kept coming back, and so it just kind of snowballed from there.
I was actually contacted by the property management of Port Gamble back in 2003, and they invited me to come out. They said, "We think you might be interested in some of the things that have been going on," and I never left.
The Walker Ames house has really been interesting.
Our team and many teams here in the Washington State area consider this house as being one of the most haunted locations in the state of Washington.
The Walker Ames house is the most haunted house in Western Washington. We've had all kinds of folks, from paranormal investigators, amateur ghost hunting groups, to folks who have absolutely nothing to do with the paranormal, experiencing the same types of phenomena in the Walker Ames house over and over again. It was initially built over the winter of 1888, 1889, and it was designed to be the most ornate building in town because it was given to the mill manager.
The last occupant in there was in 1990. Since that time, it's really been used for different festivals, paranormal investigations.
There do seem to be 11 or 12 different personalities, if you will, in the house. We have a few down in the basement, several here on the first floor, children in the attic.
There'll be times when you can walk in and the house is just dead. It just has kind of no feeling. And then you can walk in sometimes and all the hair stands on the back of your neck.
You feel every hair on your body stand on end. It's almost like you're walking into some kind of big electrostatic field.
If things are out and about, you get a sense of butterflies in your stomach or a very heavy feeling.
It just gives you the heebie-jeebies kind of thing.
There's just something in the air, you can feel it, you can sense it, and it's definitely, there's something there. There's no denying it.
It hits you in the stomach when you walk in there.
There's been people that have gone in there that have known nothing of the house, that have some of those same feeling and senses, like they aren't alone.
I've had definite run-ins with a few of the more notable personalities, ghost-wise, here in the house.
I was in the house by myself. There's nobody around. There was no cars outside, and loud child scream came from behind me and startled me.
This is the room that we call the nursery. If you don't know this house is haunted, then this is the room that everybody gets creeped out in.
None of the female workers ever felt comfortable in the basement.
Before we took the walls down in the basement, it was whenever I had to come over here to do anything, it was a really bad feeling.
To help with some airflow down there, we took the walls out.
Now that the walls are gone, it's like whatever was suppressed down there is free. So
the feeling and the interpretation that everybody gets from a medium or sensitive is that the person that's down there was kept down there against their will.
In the basement of the Walker Ames house, I had a group of about 7 people. I was asking questions if there was anybody there with us, and we actually got an audible response of yes. And I asked, "Are you the only one down here?" Yes.
We had a contractor putting in ductwork. He didn't know anything about the house. Kind of ran out of the house halfway through the job and was like, what was going on? That house is creepy. I felt like there was somebody with me.
we were down in the basement in one of the back corners. The investigator, Dave, asked me if I had any more questions, and I said no. After he asked me that question, we heard, I'm scared. And he asked me, "Did you say that?" And I said, "No, it wasn't me."
I've had interesting light shows, luminous phenomena, that is little tiny balls of light that literally zip around the entire basement. They had different trajectories. There was depth of field, there was perspective to it. There would be some lights that were against the walls in the back, there were some lights that were actually close to you and in midair. There were lights that would be zipping along the floor, so it was full phenomena. This wasn't just a reflection on the wall, it actually was standing in mid-space. Now, I've actually had this happen on 4 different occasions over the last 5 years. At one point, I actually had a group of 15 students down in the basement over the course of about 20 minutes' time, experiencing these phenomena. Everybody saw it, everybody witnessed it. The normal sort of oppressive feeling that people tend to report in the basement had left, and people reported a much more playful atmosphere.
There's a white light that kind of like shows up in front of you and starts dancing around, and people actually see it and it kind of goes away and they ask for it to come back, and it does come back. We actually captured it here on the computer at one time in one of our video cameras up in the attic. You can see it dancing right here just a little bit, and it'll kind of dance around there, and then it'll move to another location in the window. This dancing white light is something that's unique to this location.
Up here we've really gotten some very strange environmental effects. We've gotten a lot of interesting electromagnetic spikes up here, some interesting anomalistic magnetic fields. Now up in the attic there have been reports of the ghosts of children and a nanny.
From my actual office window here, I can see the south side of the Walker Ames house. There's a lady on the 3rd floor. And every other day I would look out and I would see her, and she has her hair up. I can see almost through her. And she just looks and turns like she's floating and then vanishes. It just happens like the sunlight may change or whatever, and I could see her.
There's a lady that people see all the time in the attic window. On this piece of video, you can actually see something start to develop in front of this window, and that is the attic window. Right there you can see a little bit, and then for some reason, they just go straight up through the ceiling. This is the best video that anybody's caught of that lady in the window.
The attic has a single bulb hanging, and it's got just a little turn switch. And so I'd get a call or I'd come into work and the light would be on in the attic, knowing that nobody's been in the house. And I'd be like, wonder how that happened.
One of the nights that I was working late, we were getting ready to walk up towards the attic. In the doorway, I felt something hit me in the face. And it felt like an orb of energy. It just started from my head and it worked its way down as it passed me. I felt like my blood just rushed to my feet.
We do get the cold spots. There are measurable differences in the temperature. I've literally been in the basement and seen my breath in my flashlight beam to the point where it feels like it's a good 45 degrees, and yet I'm looking over at my thermometer that's just a few feet away and it's actually pushing 70 degrees.
And I felt the temperature go down very, very low, and it was like all of a sudden I could see my breath. And I felt something walk right past my left side. And just as it walked past, I felt like a coldness go like that with my hair. It was kind of surprising. I had my first encounter with a ghost.
I was standing back in this corner here with a K2 meter, and it fluctuated a couple times, and then I felt my hand jerk up, and I said, "Did you hit my hand?" And when we listened to the audio later on, it said yes. So it was giving me a response that it was me that hit your hand, so whoever did it.
This is the room where we got the one EVP with Tracy. Tracy was standing right here, and the rest of us were back here in the back of the room, and actually had an audio recorder right here on top of the fireplace. This is where she asked the question. She wanted to be able to speak with the spirits, and they replied back, "Can you hear me?"
The very first trip to the house that I made, I was with a group called the Evergreen Paranormal Group. It was a group that I helped founded. And we were up on the 2nd floor taking a tour of the house. One of the investigators was using a handheld recorder. And there's a door upstairs that was open, and we knew that it was supposed to be shut. So one of the investigators leaned in to close the door. It stuck. They pulled on it just a little bit too hard, and of course it slammed. Now there's no furnishings here in the house. It's empty, so the echo was tremendous. And we all kind of did that thing and then kind of let it go. And when we listen to the recording afterward, right after the echo died, you hear a very distinct female voice say, "Not so loud." Now, there was only one female with us at the time, and it was most definitely not her voice, and none of us had said a thing.
So as we're recording the behind the scenes videos, we try to go outside and we notice that the screws on the door handle or deadbolt have actually been slowly screwing out unexplainably.